3:47 a.m. You wake up before the alarm and you already know why. Your hand is reaching for the phone on the nightstand before your eyes fully open. The screen glows blue on the ceiling. You thumb into the banking app, you watch the little loading wheel spin for half a second, and you see the number. And the number is exactly what you thought it would be because you also checked at 11:42 p.m. and 9:15 p.m. and during lunch, you haven't moved a dollar. You just needed to make sure the dollars hadn't moved either. Somewhere out there, another person, same age, same city, maybe the same job, hasn't opened their banking app in 3 weeks. They couldn't tell you their checking balance within $1,000. They sleep through the night like it's a civil right. The only thing separating those two lives is a number in a savings account. My name is Nick, and today we're walking up that number. From 0 past 3 million, following one person the whole way. You. Level 1, $0 or negative. It's a Tuesday, you're 24. You're standing in the Dollar Tree under that specific fluorescent light that makes everyone look slightly dead, and you're doing price per ounce math out loud because 2.4 ounces of ibuprofen at $1.25 is objectively a better deal than 4 ounces at $3.50, and that 40 cents matters. You know it matters because you've already moved the cart past the ramen 3 times trying to decide if you can afford both soap and dinner this week. This is $0. This is where about 10% of American households sit permanently and where another 62% visit constantly through paycheck to paycheck life. Bankrate says 59% of Americans can't cover a $1,000 emergency with cash. The Federal Reserve is blunter. 37% can't cover $400 and 13% can't cover that $400 by any means. Not savings, not credit, not a family loan, nothing. So your 2008 Camry needs brakes, $480, you have $63 until Friday. The choices available to you at this tier are not choices, they're damage control options. Title loan at $120 in fees, skip a shift and lose $110, or just keep driving until the rotor becomes a $900 problem instead of a $480 one. You pick the cheapest disaster on the menu. That's not a metaphor. That's Tuesday. And here's the genuinely cruel part. Scientists at Princeton ran a study showing that the cognitive load of financial scarcity costs you roughly 13 IQ points while you're in it. So the system doesn't just make you poor, it makes you worse at getting out of poor. You're making the biggest decisions of your life with the smallest amount of brain available. Then the kicker. 62% of personal bankruptcies in this country have a medical component. 78% of those people had insurance. So at $0, you're not broke. You're one unlucky Tuesday from catastrophe. And right now, at 3 a.m., you check your bank app. The balance is what you thought it would be, and somehow that's worse. Level 2, $1,000 a year later. You're 25. You just hit $1,000 in savings for the first time in your adult life. You actually take a screenshot. You might even send it to your mom. Dave Ramsey calls this baby step 1, and he wants you to tape it to the fridge, and you should. This is a real psychological milestone. The first time the number has a comma in it. The problem is that you'll also learn fast what $1,000 is not. It is not 1 month of rent in any major metro. It is not a transmission. It is not an ER copay plus the 2 follow-up visits in a high-yield savings account. Your $1,000 earns you maybe $40 a year, which is about $3 a month, basically just enough to pay for the good cheese on one grocery trip. 2 weeks after you tape that screenshot to the fridge, the water heater dies, $1,100. You're back to 0 and $100 on a credit card, and the screenshot is still there, and every time you open the fridge, it looks slightly more sarcastic. Even Dave Ramsey admits this now, which is a sentence I didn't think I'd write. He said, and I'm paraphrasing, $1,000 was never meant to be enough. $2,000 isn't enough either. It exists to stop you from losing emotional momentum when life breaks something. It's a behavior modification tool wearing a financial tool costume. But here's what changed, and this matters. You checked your bank app at 3 a.m. this week, once, not 3 times, not every night, once. The muscle is loosening, the panic is quieter. You haven't escaped the scarcity tier. You've just learned that the tier is a skill, not a sentence, and the skill is starting to stick. Level 3, $10,000. You're 28, 4 years of paying down debt, picking up extra shifts, and eating the same $7 lunch you packed the night before. $10,000. For the first time in your adult life, you have a genuine emergency fund. Here's what that feels like physically in your body. Your phone rings on a Thursday afternoon. It's your mechanic. The transmission is shot. The repair is $3,200. In every previous year of your life, that phone call would have triggered the pit of the stomach thing, the sweat, the mental spiral. But this time, you just say, okay, go ahead, I'll pick it up Saturday, and you go back to your actual life. You don't check your bank app at 3 a.m. anymore. You don't check it at 11 p.m. You barely check it at all. That is what $10,000 buys you. It doesn't buy you freedom, it buys you sleep. You're now somewhere around the 55th to 65th percentile of emergency savings. You have roughly 3 months of essential expenses banked. If you lost your job tomorrow, you'd have runway. You could actually job search instead of panic applying to the first warehouse job that pops up on Indeed at 11 p.m. on a Sunday. But the math still kind of insults you. 10 grand in a high yield account earns you about $400 a year, which is what, half a month of rent in Omaha? Maybe 10 days in Denver, half a month in Denver. In stocks at 7%, it earns $700. Meanwhile, if you're also carrying $5,000 in credit card debt at 22%, you're paying $1,100 a year to earn $700. That's called financial self-harm, and roughly a third of Americans are doing it right now while calling themselves good with money. Here's the thing. Nobody tells you about $10,000. Getting here was the hardest part of your life so far. Every one of those dollars came from saying no to something, to a dinner, to a weekend, to a version of yourself that other people seem to be living. You feel it, you earned it, and now the part nobody warned you about, the quiet stretch in the middle, is about to begin. And here's where most people quit. Not loudly, not dramatically, just slowly. The dinners creep back in. The new couch happens, the raise arrives and disappears into lifestyle. They're 33, they have $12,000 in savings, and they've had $12,000 in savings for 4 years. And they don't understand why. Let me show you why. Level 4, $35,000. You're 32, you got 2 raises, you bought your first couch that wasn't from Facebook Marketplace, and you felt guilty about the couch. Actually guilty. You almost returned it the next day because some part of your brain that was forged at the Dollar Tree back in your $0 era whispered, you shouldn't have spent that. You kept the couch. But the whisper was real. That whisper is the reason you have $35,000 now instead of $3,500. You're now in the 75th to 85th percentile of liquid savings. Your boss calls you into the conference room on a Tuesday for the first time in your career. You walk in without your palms sweating because you know that if this conversation goes sideways, you've got 8 months of runway. You could walk out. You don't because you like the job, but the option changes your entire posture in the chair. This is what nobody tells you about savings. The point isn't the purchase power. The point is the power. But this is also the sneakiest trap in personal finance, and I need you to hear me on this. At $35,000 liquid plus a starter 401k, you are roughly average for your age group. Meanwhile, every Instagram post, every Netflix show, every car commercial is calibrated for the top 5%, which is $1.9 million plus. So you think you're behind when you are statistically average. And when you feel behind, you do dumb things. You take out a HELOC to renovate. You buy the truck your coworker has. You trade the car that was working fine. The couch guilt is the thing that built this tier. The Instagram envy is the thing that will dismantle it. Every single wealthy person I've ever read about or studied had some version of that couch guilt voice permanently installed. Most people silence it somewhere around $35,000. You have to keep it. Level 5, $100,000. You're 36. The account hit 6 figures last week. You told nobody. This is the Munger threshold. Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett's late partner and one of the sharpest financial minds of the last 100 years, got asked at a Berkshire meeting for his best piece of wealth-building advice. His answer, cleaned up a little, the first $100,000 is a bitch, but you gotta do it. I don't care what you have to do. If it means walking everywhere and not eating anything that wasn't purchased with a coupon, find a way to get your hands on $100,000. After that, you can ease off the gas a little bit. That quote is the most famous line in personal finance for a reason, but here's what nobody tells you. Munger said that in the late 1990s, adjusted for inflation. His $100,000 is about $200,000 in 2026 money. The threshold moved, the math didn't, and the math is the reason you're here. Because at $100,000, something genuinely mechanical happens. Let me show you. If you contribute $12,000 a year and earn 7%, it takes about 6.8 years to reach $100,000, and during those years, your contributions account for about 81% of that total. Your returns only did 19% of the work, you did the rest. The next $100,000 takes less time and less of you. Around a $171,000 balance, your annual returns start beating your annual contributions, and from that moment forward, your money is working harder than you are. It never stops. It only accelerates. This is why Munger said the first $100,000 was the hard one, because the entire game flips right around here. But the catch, only about 40% of US households ever cross $100,000 in net worth. The median household doesn't cross it until their late 30s to mid 40s. Even in retirement accounts specifically, Fidelity's latest data puts the average 401k balance across all ages at just $146,000. So if you're sitting at six figures before 40, you are genuinely ahead, regardless of what the TikTok "I made my first million at 26 from dropshipping" crowd is posting. Most of those guys are broke, but that's a different video. You close the app, you don't check it again that night. The muscle is fully atrophied now. Level 6, $250,000. You're 41. $250,000, 56th percentile. Here's the part that should feel illegal. If you stopped contributing today, stopped entirely, never added another dollar at a 7% real return, that account grows to roughly $1.3 million by the time you're 65. You don't have to do anything. You just have to not touch it. That's called Coastfire. It means the rest of your paycheck no longer has to go toward retirement. You can use it to live, to travel, to work fewer hours, to finally take the risk you've been sitting on for a decade. That is what $250,000 unlocks, and almost nobody explains it to people when they hit it. But I also want you to meet a couple. Let's not use their real names. Though they exist, they went on a Netflix show and you can find them. Combined income, $286,000 a year. Investment accounts, $168,000. Credit card debt, $65,000. HELOC, $97,000. Total savings, $2,000. The husband owns $6,000 worth of bicycles he refuses to give up. Ramit Sethi, the guy who runs the show, looked at them and said, "If you lose your job, you have enough to get by for 4 or 5 days." Read that again, 4 or 5 days. On $286,000 a year. That is not financial security. That is a performance of financial security. And it's happening inside thousands of households making well into 6 figures, which means income alone will not save you. There is no salary number that fixes a spending problem. There is no raise big enough to outrun undisciplined behavior. The people who actually reach this tier and stay at this tier, the ones who turn $250,000 into $500,000 into $1 million, are the ones who kept the couch gilt. They looked at the $286,000 life and said quietly, "No thanks." You're one of them, level 7, $500,000. You're 46, $500,000, top 25% of US households. Statistically, the median American never reaches this line at any age. And here's where something shifts in your body that you don't have words for. You stop checking your portfolio on your phone because the daily fluctuations are larger than your monthly contributions were 5 years ago. A 3% down day costs you $15,000 on paper. A 3% up day makes you $15,000. The numbers stopped being about your behavior. They're about the market, and the market doesn't care about you. In a strong year, when the S&P 500 returns 20 or 25%, a $500,000 portfolio produced $125,000 in gains just by existing while you slept. That is more than the median American household makes at a job. Your money now has a better job than most people, but this is also where the hedonic treadmill runs the fastest. A couple you'd recognize if I named them: net worth $2.18 million, household income $450,000, describe themselves in a 2024 interview verbatim as living paycheck to paycheck. Top 5% by net worth, top 1% by income, still feeling squeezed because wealth is relative. And the peer group updates every time the number updates. The trick at $500,000 is identical to the trick at $1,000. Keep the couch guilt. Your spending wants to grow to match your balance. Every expensive friend, every Instagram ad, every you've earned it thought is the same enemy from the $35,000 tier wearing nicer clothes. The people who retire early from this tier are the ones who froze their lifestyle somewhere around $60,000 to $80,000 a year of spending and just kept letting the portfolio grow. The math from here is not complicated. The discipline is. That's the whole game. Level 8, $1 million. You're 52. 7 figures, the mythical millionaire. You walk into your kitchen on a Tuesday morning and make coffee. Nothing is different. Nothing feels different. The word millionaire is carrying every cultural image from the last century. Yachts, linen suits, Monte Carlo. And the reality is that you're in a Target fleece looking at a portfolio statement. In 2026, about 18% of US households have a 7-figure net worth, around 24 million of them. America minted over 1,000 new millionaires a day in 2024. The average age of a US millionaire is 61, which is not particularly sexy. And here's the deflating math nobody wants to quote. $1 million at the standard 4% safe withdrawal rate produces $40,000 a year, which is below the median household income in this country. Your grandparents' million bought a yacht. Your million buys you a paid-off house in Columbus and a Costco membership. Schwab's 2025 survey found that Americans now say you need $2.3 million to feel wealthy. Only 36% of actual millionaires consider themselves wealthy. Let that sit. But I want to tell you about Ronald Read because this is the only millionaire story that matters. Ronald Read was a Vermont gas station attendant and a JCPenney janitor. He drove a 2007 Toyota Yaris he held his coat together with a safety pin. Every morning, he ate an English muffin with peanut butter at the hospital cafeteria. Same stool. Patrons at Friendly's sometimes bought his meal out of pity because they thought he was homeless. When he died in 2014 at age 92, they opened his safe deposit box, $8 million in dividend stocks, a T&T Bank of America, CVS, Deere, GE. He left $1.2 million to the local library and $4.8 million to the hospital. Ronald Read didn't have $1 million, he had 8. And the Friendly's patrons felt sorry for him. That is what a millionaire actually looks like. And if you pictured anything else, it's because someone sold you the picture. And this is the part that actually made me uncomfortable when I first learned it. Because above this number, 1 million, 2 million, 3, the problems don't go away. They don't even shrink. They just trade costumes. The stress stays, the cortisol stays, the 3 a.m. check-in returns wearing a different disguise. Level 9, $3 million plus you're 55. $3 million, top 7% of US households. Not the 1%. That club starts at over $15 million. But real, actual, generational wealth. $3 million at 4% gives you $120,000 a year, inflation adjusted forever. That's a senior engineer's salary paid to you by your money every year for the rest of your life, while you do whatever you want with your time. This is also where FIRE officially takes over. Lean FIRE at $1 million. Regular FIRE at $1 to $2.5 million. Chubby FIRE at $2 to $3.75 million. Fat FIRE at $5 million and up. There is an entire subculture arguing on spreadsheets about whether 3.5% or 3.9% is safer over 50 years. And I love them, but they are not normal people. But here's the part I want you to hear clearly because it's the whole point of this video. At every tier we walked through, from the Dollar Tree at $0 to the Coastfire moment at $250,000 to sitting on $3 million at 55, the amount of financial stress people reported was almost identical. The subject changed. The cortisol didn't. At $0, you asked, can I make rent? At $35,000, am I behind? At $1 million, will a crash wipe me out? At $3 million, is $3 million even enough in San Francisco? It's the same nervous system wearing different clothes, which is why, below about $100,000 in wealth, more money genuinely and measurably relieves suffering. And above that line, money mostly relieves comparison. Comparison is a bottomless well. It was designed that way. Joseph Heller, the guy who wrote Catch-22, went to a hedge fund manager's party in the Hamptons. Someone leaned over and told him the host had out-earned Heller's lifetime royalties from Catch-22 in a single trading day. Heller just shrugged and said, yes, but I have something he will never have. I have enough. That is the number almost nobody calculates, and it's the only one that matters. Your enough is probably smaller than the internet told you. It's probably closer to $800,000 than $8 million. It probably doesn't require a yacht, a private school, or second home. It probably looks like a paid-off house, a boring index fund, and a Tuesday afternoon where nobody needs you. So here's what you do tomorrow morning. You look at your number, like wherever you are on this ladder, and you ask one question. Not, how do I get to the next tier? The question is, what's the smallest thing I can do this week to stop leaking money out of this one? Start there. The math does the rest.